Welcome to another episode of the Everything Antarctica Podcast. I'm Matty Jordan. I'm joined once again by Jonny Harrison. And as a follow-on from last week's episode where we spoke about things that we missed from the real world while living in Antarctica, this week we're going to talk about the things that we didn't miss from the real world while living in Antarctica. So, Jonny, do you want to kick us off?
One of the things that first comes to mind is paying for petrol. So filling up the car with gas and, the cost that's involved with that. And I guess as well on the back, we've also got things like registration and other vehicle-related costs. I was very happy not to pay those while living in Antarctica.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I still had a vehicle back in New Zealand while I was living down there, so we're still paying for things like a warrant of fitness and the registration, but not driving that day-to-day meant that there were no costs for fuel. And with the cost of living at the moment and how prices have escalated over the last year or so, it's pretty ridiculous. So to spend an extended period away without having to pay for those things was definitely something that I didn't miss while I was down there. That was an added bonus of living away for so long.
The next one for me, kind of in a similar vein, is paying for food, and again, sort of touching on that cost of living sort of crisis that we're in at the moment. Being able to have food prepared for you, so not having to prepare your own food every single day, that was great, and also not having to pay for it. So that was another couple.
That was one of the big shocks for me when I first got back from winter, having to go back out to the supermarket and do my weekly shop. I looked down at the fresh produce because that was all I wanted to eat for the entire time. So it was fruit salads, lots of vegetables, lots of fresh things that weren't available while we were in Antarctica. I remember walking into the supermarket, looking straight at the berries, grabbed a whole bunch of those, grabbed some blueberries and some strawberries, grabbed some avocados, grabbed bananas, and then I looked down at this watermelon. It was a quarter of a watermelon, and it was 32 New Zealand dollars. For a quarter of a watermelon, not even a whole thing. So that's like over $100 for a full watermelon. Granted that watermelons were out of season, it was still ridiculous to come back and see that a supermarket was expecting over $30 for a quarter of a watermelon. So as much as I wanted to eat it, I let that one sit there, and I can imagine that there weren't any people that did actually pick that up and buy it, no matter what the cost of living is. It's just outrageous.
The next thing for me was I didn't miss all the meetings and things like that you normally kind of get pulled into for a normal workday. Being down in Antarctica kind of lets you focus on your job and kind of your specific role and your duties and responsibilities. And because you don't have an endless supply of people coming to you for additional things, it's actually quite nice to have a somewhat limited number of emails and definitely a limited number of meetings that you have to partake in. So I didn't miss the meetings and emails.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think coming along from that is just like life admin in general. So there's a lot of things that you just can forget about and you don't need to deal with. They're not super urgent. There aren't things that are constantly coming up. And oftentimes with general life admin, you can just overlook it because, one, it's probably not important, or two, just it doesn't come up because you're not in that regular routine and that daily grind. So
the next thing for me was like going to the supermarket to buy certain things all the time. So do one big shop right at the beginning before you go down, similar to what you did. I bought a whole bunch of like soap and detergent and all of those kind of personal toiletries and things that you'd normally purchase. And instead of buying them, I need another one this month, and next month I'm going to need another one of these, I did that all at bulk at the beginning, and so it meant that I had a prolonged period of time where actually all my toiletries and all of that kind of thing were already sitting there ready to go, and so I didn't miss going to the supermarket having to buy those kind of things.
That's probably actually a good thing to take into general day-to-day life because they're non-perishables. These things last for ages. There's nothing stopping us from holding 2 or 3 bottles of shampoo. Well, not shampoo, that's a terrible example because neither of us need it really, but things like body wash, having a few bottles set aside for that and having a few tubs of toothpaste. It's just those things that when you run out, you're like, oh yeah, I need to go to the shops to get those. And you go and do your shopping, and then, I don't know, for me anyway, like I forget. And that was the primary reason why I went to the supermarket. And then I come back with no toothpaste, and then I'm in the same problem again. So yeah, being able to bulk load up on those sorts of things was a good thing. And that was, something that we
carry over.
Yeah, definitely.
The next one for me is disposable cups and coffee mugs. So for me, it's like I hate seeing disposable cups and even down to like plastic drink bottles. It's like, yep, you get issued a plastic drink bottle when you go down there, which is great. You fill it up and you bring it back to New Zealand and you use it for years and years. So the same thing as far as coffee mugs and things like that. So actually having something that you can keep your hot drink in, and you're not just chucking one away at the end of every single use, filling up the landfill.
Absolutely. I hate that disposable culture that we've become accustomed to just because things are there and because they're easy. I didn't pick up a disposable cup or a plastic bag for 9 months, and my life is still great, if not better than it was had I had access to all of those sorts of things, because you just default to using them. So the whole conservative nature of everything that we do down there, because we're trying our best to limit our presence and reduce our impact as far as practicable, that's definitely something that I didn't miss, just having access to all of this wasteful stuff.
Online shopping was another one for me. So because you don't really have the chance to have it delivered, very quickly, it means that, actually, do I really need that thing? So it kind of added to the sort of the barriers to actually need it in the first place, and kind of it was a good check and balance to see whether or not I actually wanted it or needed it.
Yeah, absolutely. Even being back in New Zealand now, that's one of those things that I don't do very often. I didn't do much before, but I think it's sort of solidified the need that I don't actually enjoy doing that. I would much rather buy something secondhand from sort of marketplace or one of those, secondhand traders online, or going into a store and just actually having a conversation with a person who can explain the ins and outs of the product or what it is that I'm buying, rather than just, hitting go on a website and it just turns up, and then, in many cases you don't ever use it or don't ever look at it. It just turns up and you go, oh yeah, that's a nice new t-shirt or whatever. I'll put that in the back of the cupboard and I'll wear it for a special occasion, which never ends up rolling around. So yeah, the whole I think the whole idea of being in Antarctica instills a certain level of sustainability and additional thought about the environment and purchases, and I think it just makes you a little bit more conscious about how you're living your day-to-day life. So
which is excellent, right?
Absolutely, yeah, that's awesome.
Circling back to vehicles, the next one that I'd like to say is around traffic. I definitely didn't miss sitting in traffic lights and waiting for things to turn green. Yeah. It's so nice just being able to, particularly down there, there's not heaps of vehicles and not much vehicle traffic. So typically speaking, you go about your business and you know that, it's going to take me this long to get somewhere, and you don't have to worry about going around roundabouts or waiting at intersections for long times, waiting for a queue of traffic to pass so you can take your turn.
It's amazing how your perception on that changes. So I grew up in Perth, and I used to commute 45 minutes each way to get to my job every single day. So it's an hour and a half per day for 5 days a week that you spend sitting in traffic. Moving to New Zealand, if I were to get in my car and drive to work, my commute would be 8 minutes in each direction, but I either cycle or walk to work. The cycle takes probably 15 minutes and the walk takes about 40. But just having that ability to slow down and just think about, when I'm walking to work, I'm getting myself in the zone for what's happening through the day. And it gives me my time just to sort of be on my own. But even now, if I have to drive 20, 25, 30 minutes to get to a destination somewhere in Christchurch, I'm second guessing whether, I'm like, that's actually a fair distance for me to be traveling, even if there's no traffic at all. I don't like being in traffic. I'd much rather, walk or cycle to my destination, and if it's too far, then reconsider. I mean, of course I'm going to do it if there's something that's going on that I want to be at, but sitting in traffic, I don't know how people who live in big cities do it anymore. I mean, Christchurch is as big as I think I'd probably ever want to live in again, and it's not even that big, less than 400,000 people, and peak hour traffic might mean that you sit at a set of traffic lights for 2 or 3 traffic light changes rather than sort of 10 to 15 that you get elsewhere. So I definitely didn't miss traffic at all.
What's another one that you've got on your mind that another thing that you didn't miss at all while you were down there?
Another thing that I didn't miss was just generally getting sick. I've got pretty bad hay fever at the moment. I don't know if you can tell, given that my voice is sounding a little bit different, but just general germs, bugs, being sick, and particularly over the winter, there's no pathway for germs and illnesses to make its way to Scott Base. So you go the entire 9 months feeling pretty tip-top. Coming back to New Zealand, literally day one, went to the Botanic Gardens. As soon as I was around that pollen and some of those other things, hay fever kicked up straight away. Absolutely did not miss that. I loved getting up in the morning and you're feeling good and you're excited about the day. You're not drowsy. You don't have some of the other signs and symptoms from general illnesses that you're exposed to, particularly throughout the winter, especially in New Zealand. So definitely didn't miss being sick.
Yeah, further to that one, I certainly didn't miss things like spiders and insects and bugs and bits and pieces. And I mean, the same thing, you could extend that right out to like rats and mice, right? Yeah, just as far as you could leave some food outside for days and days and know that, yep, unless a squirrel was to come and get it, the chances are it was probably going to be there still. So there's all those things, spiders' webs in the corners of rooms and little insects that you just kind of, you take for granted. And interestingly, you get super hypersensitive to them. So you'd be, if there was ever a bug that was discovered on a station, they'd be found very quickly because you've got all these people that have been in this situation, in this environment for so long and attuned to it, that if there's even the smallest little fruit fly, you'll see them out of the corner of your eye and be drawn to the movement because it's something that doesn't fit in that space. And so it's very quick, very easy, and very quickly we can find things that don't belong in that space and deal to them. And conversely, when you come back to the real world, it's kind of fills in on that sensory overload piece of things, as far as you'll see a bunny rabbit way off in the distance jumping along, and you're kind of like drawn to it, and nobody else around you can see it, but you can, because you've been in this state where it's like super sterile, but you haven't seen any of these external movements that you wouldn't expect to see, apart from other people.
Yeah. I also didn't miss going outside and being dirty. Yeah, you go outside and you're all rugged up and the snow is nice and pristine and white and clean. Whereas if you go outside in New Zealand, for example, say you go out for a hike, especially if it's rainy, it's often muddy, you're super, super dirty. Everything has dirt all over it. Your pack is covered in dirt. Your shoes are covered in dirt. Your clothes are covered in dirt. Everything just seems messy. And yeah, those sorts of things don't really happen that much. We do get an annual period where there's a bit of melt that happens when the snow starts to disintegrate and things do start getting a little bit muddy, but it's not like mud is everywhere like it is back here, especially if it's rainy and
because there's no soil on Ross Island, it's not a mud as far as what you're used to seeing, back home. It's much more this kind of gravelly sort of the dust, that kind of then ends up forming into a slurry or a bit of a paste type thing. Yeah.
Yeah. So. I also didn't miss the hustle and bustle at times and just the general noise of being in a city and being overwhelmed by things like cars honking and trucks passing down the road and just all of these random man-made noises that you're constantly being exposed to. Antarctica is quite a pristine and really quiet environment, especially if you're off station, and I really just didn't miss the whole sensory overload from man-made items.
And that extends also to the smells, right? So like the diesel fumes and all of the kind of pollution that you get from being in a city in particular, all those kind of things that you just kind of like, oh man, how do people even live in this situation, in this environment? But you just get so accustomed to it when you're in it.
Yeah. I remember someone saying to me, when you get back, one of the things that you're going to be overwhelmed with at the start is just this sense of smell and all of the beautiful scents and things. And the very first thing I smelt when I got off the plane was aviation fuel at the airport. And it was like, this is not the fantasy that they made it out to be like. You come back and it's like, oh, I'm going to smell trees and everything's going to smell fresh. And then the first whiff of air is aviation fuel, avgas, and it's not quite the fantasy that it's made out to be.
Yeah, for me it was crossing the road out the front of the Antarctica New Zealand building, and there was a bus that had just gone past, and so this loud noisy bus, but then coupled with the diesel smoke and the smell out the back of that, and as you say, it's just like whoa, this is all too much. Yeah. And it's not the good kind of too much.
Welcome back to civilization.
Reality and what it looks like.
Yeah. I didn't miss waiting in queues and waiting in lines and having to, just generally wait for things, and that extends to traffic as well, obviously waiting there, but, going to a supermarket and you get to the checkout and there's 3, 4, 5 people in front of you and just having to sit there and, you're a little bit weird when you come back after an extended period of time. So I'm like, I don't know what to do with my hands. Where do I look? This is just like quite awkward interactions. But yeah, definitely didn't. Just waiting in general. Just didn't miss waiting because everything's available. You can just do things when you want.
I didn't miss having things in my pockets, so I had my cell phone in my pocket most of the time, and that was so that I could take quick photos with my phone. But apart from that, I wouldn't have my wallet and keys or anything else in my pocket. So often when I'd be walking around, the only thing that I'd have on me was my phone. So I sort of I didn't miss having all these other things that you need to have when you go out and about.
Yeah, I'm the same. I lost my wallet, actually lost my wallet for probably a period of about 2 months. I had nothing that I needed to spend money on, and I had a rudimentary look for it one day, and I was like, oh, it'll turn up at some point. And yeah, 2 months later, it turned up in the back of one of my clothes drawers, and then I pulled it out. I'm like, oh yeah, that's that thing. Yeah, interesting. Yeah, but yeah, I definitely didn't miss that either, just having to carry that with me all the time. But now that I'm back, my wallet, my keys, my phone, it's just an extension of who I am. Wherever I go, anywhere, it's just those things in the pocket.
Yeah, absolutely. I didn't miss carrying a rain jacket around. So often, in your bag and things like that, particularly if you're going out for a hike, you make sure that you got a rain jacket with you. But obviously, with not having any rain, we don't need to worry about that down there. So, I mean, sure, we get dressed up for other reasons, but I didn't miss sort of carrying an extra layer in that way.
Yeah. Thanks for listening to this episode of the Everything Antarctica podcast. We hope you enjoyed hearing about some of the things that we didn't miss from the real world while we were living in Antarctica. Next episode, we'll talk about the things that we did miss from Antarctica when we came back to New Zealand. Stay tuned for that next episode, and hopefully this gives you a bit of additional context about some of the things that we go through while we're living and working in Antarctica.